Okay, so I get that a lot of people may say this is just like petty online stuff, but I've learned a lot in person, especially since traveling the past few years, that one, the Caucasian addict projection is a really big issue, but more than that, the time of Jacob's trouble is at hand, and I'm sure many people have noticed since, 2016, that the white supremacists have been coming out of the closet more and more. Not that really a lot of them were ever in the closet, but they know they're about to have a field day. A lot of laws have been getting passed since Obama, that bullcrap dude that people don't even know about, from the Noah Hyde laws to all the ones being passed right now that revolve around racial things and just eugenics and different stuff like that. Now, I know that a lot of people that consider themselves quote-unquote white, some of them may not see a problem with it, but one of the things you have to realize, as I've been mentioning and talking about for years, there's the real white supremacists at the top, and then there's the ones at the bottom. There's the higher level Caucasians, and there's the lower level Caucasians. People like the chief dude, I can't really say if he's a Rev 29J3W, but there's some of the real white supremacists at the top that actually have all the money and own everything. Which is why which is why some lower level Caucasians don't like them, because they took all the money after all the different colonization stuff. That's why some lower level Caucasians will even try to pretend that the serpent CJ3W Rev 29s aren't Caucasian Europeans. And they'll try to act like they're dark skin or something, which some of them do that, not most of them. Most lower level Caucasians don't do that, especially because a lot of the ones in the Christian church also see themselves as the chosen people, because they know that the people running around the land and the J3Ws that live in America and places like California and New York, they're Caucasian Europeans. So they feel like, well, we're all the chosen, but realistically, the higher level Caucasians do not like lower level Caucasians, and a lot of them don't really like other white people. In fact, the real white supremacists made up terms like white trash, trailer park trash, different things like that. And then he's always talking about the drug issue, but realistically, as I always talk about, the reason that their drug issue got the way it did is because they won't police their crime. That's the reason why it got the way it has since the 60s or whatever. If they would have policed their crime, their community wouldn't have the drug issues that it does. And then the Caucasian community made their drug issues the face of homelessness. But I talk about that pretty often. That's almost irrelevant. To get back to the point, though, the time of Jacob's trouble is at hand, and the real white supremacist NZAISs, they do not like other white people. Like, literally the bullcrap story you're fed about the whole Adolf dude and the NAZIS stuff with Germany, because everything they actually learned from America. Everything Adolf learned, he learned from America. All the eugenics stuff that the J3Ws learned, like Margaret Sanger and etc. people, they learned it from America. But anywho, now people act like Germany is like full of terrible people, even though everything they learned was from the US, which is funny. But the main story you're fed is that Adolf was a Caucasian dude who unalived other Caucasian people. But that's not really how that went, but either way, this should be a telltale sign to the Caucasian people who think that they're not at risk, that they are at risk. Especially if you're poor, because something that a lot of people don't know, or seem to not want to admit, is that being poor is seen as a mental illness to these people. They don't like poor people as a whole. Like, people who are poor think that they're like better than the homeless person, which I never even consider myself poor, because I feel like if you're not even old enough to have a place anyways, what's even the point of running around calling yourself homeless? But of course people have made sure they beat the label into my head. But anywho, to get back to the point, they see us all the same. That's the point. And as I've talked about for years, that people have always hated, if you're a poor white person, the white supremacists at the top don't see you as white. that's something to keep in mind. Like, a lot of these southern white people think that, like, these people at the top care about them. Honestly, I don't really know why anybody who's not the 1% thinks that these people care about them. And it's already a known fact that people in middle class and upper middle class have been falling down to poverty. And as they always say, you will own nothing to be happy. But my point is, I get that a lot of people think that, like, these screenshots are just, like, petty stuff. But people are showing their true colors and they're admitting what they're about to do. It's very obvious that the chief dude is an Ice Cube agent, as I call them. That's why he's always saying he works for the Department of Homeland Security. These different little NAZIS kidnapping organizations work for the Department of Homeland Security. And another thing about it is that, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, they've been kidnapping homeless people since before they even started kidnapping melanated people, and that's only going to get worse, them kidnapping unalive melanated people and people in general. So I don't really know what else to say about that, but that's also another reason why I've made my little series about the whole mental label bullcrap, because part of the reason why these things were created and are used as insults today is to benefit specifically white, quote-unquote white men, because it doesn't really benefit their women because they don't like women anyways and they're sexist. And if anybody knows about the Prophet Celestial lady, I mean, I honestly don't know why people feel some type. Well, I guess I could see why, because, like, one, people don't like the truth, and then another thing about it is that people who are known to their prophetic are the people that these days get the autism label thrown on them for, like, having hyperlexia and good vocabulary. So a lot of people, especially, like, quote-unquote black people, probably feel like, oh, she talks weird. But everything that she talks about, the moral or the main, like, idea of what she talks about, people should have already been known. A lot of people were talking about the same stuff and similar stuff back in the 2010s, but they would get banned off of YouTube and stuff for it. So, like, a lot of the people that did used to talk about that type of stuff and, like, how America's Mystery Babylon, they got banned a long time ago. But everything she's saying is true, and people better wake up, because these people, these NAZIS people, they're about to start taking people out more and more. And as far as homeless people being kidnapped and experimented on, that's been going on for forever. Really, anybody that's a part of the human cash cow systems or cash for kids system, they've been getting experimented on and stuff. Prisons, prisoners, foster kids, etc., etc. And it's not going to get any better. A lot of people are hoping for things to get better, but things won't. Well, what's that thing people say? It gets worse before it gets better. And one of the things I forgot to mention, now I've always talked about how religious people and atheists, they have a lot of the same arguments and talking points and a lot of the same manipulation, but especially when it comes to the white supremacist philosophy of atheism and white Christian nationalism, it's pretty much the same. Because you'll see that, like, due to, I guess, whatever trauma and stuff, Chief Handler claims to hate religious people, and I believe in that stuff. He also pretends to care about abused kids, but it's very obvious he doesn't. But overall, he says that he hates religious people, but he's in the same areas and work fields as a white Christian nationalist. And one of the things about that is that regardless of what the white supremacists, and there's different branches, of course, so they don't all like each other, but they still have the same, like, viewpoints regardless of whether they're in the white supremacist philosophy of atheism or Christianity or whatever else. And then also they have access to, like, database systems and stuff like that. So, like, supposedly, well, not supposedly, if they really wanted to, they can find people's addresses and names and stuff like that, which is how they've been finding the different people they've been kidnapping. And like I've mentioned, for some years now, since before the LA thing even went off, that a lot of the white Christian truther channels were saying was fake and didn't happen, and that none of the stuff is happening, that it's all propaganda, and that the laws that they claim they're passing are not passing. And a lot of people, even plenty of melanated people, are falling for this stuff. But there's a lot I could say about that could be a whole nother video. So, to get back to the point, I've talked about how Border Patrol and the Ice Cube agents have been hopping on Greyhounds, kidnapping people, asking anybody who's not Caucasian if they have vital records and stuff. And it's like, who's even really going to have all that in a Greyhound anyways? And of course, a lot of people who have been through the human cash cow systems and the cash for kids system end up losing vital records, and a lot of things happen with that, which is also part of why it's easier for them to become homeless, especially with foster kids, people who've been in the military, branch of the human cash cow systems, and prison. They lose vital records pretty easily, and they're easy targets to kidnap behind that. But still, at the end of the day, though, even if you do have ID and all that, that doesn't really matter. They're just pretending that they're not after U.S. citizens, but they are. And a lot of people are pretending that they're not, but they are. Because they're trying to get rid of people. That's why, like, a lot of the people that would be labeled off as white on the U.S. Census, like Africans, not a certain type, all Africans, because the black label is only for certain people. Africans are not quote-unquote black, even though sometimes to try to confuse people, white supremacists will often say black Africans, but Africans are not black. They'll try to throw that term up to confuse people. But anywho, Africans, Asians, Latinos, or different people that were conquered by the European Spaniards, even though white people in America don't know that Spanish is a European language. What else? Who else was it? I think I already said Asian. So yeah, that's pretty much everybody that I could really think of. When they come to the U.S., they get labeled off as white on the census. But they also get told not to listen to quote-unquote black Americans and that we just lie and complain and all that. But those are the people that they've been sending back. And like I've been saying since my videos in NY, one of the things about it is that they brought all these people over here and paid them to come over here, brought them here on buses and planes just to unalive them and send them back and tell them that they shouldn't be here. And that's just like the cover-up. Like, as I mentioned before, I noticed that especially when it comes to quote-unquote black Christians, especially the southern ones, but even ones on the East Coast in general, but especially with southern people, regardless of what they look like, they're automatically programmed to, like, be prejudiced, whether they're quote-unquote white or not. They're programmed to not like Mexicans. They're programmed to not like Africans. They're programmed to think, I'll never trust the African prophet because all Africans are witches and stuff like that. I even remember, like, this one dude, he knows who the true Yasharael are, and that the people running around Northeast Africa aren't the real people, and that they're Swedish, Irish, and German immigrants who got the land from Britain because they are Brits. But I remember one time he was like, did God ever promise that Palestinians would have a nation or be a people? And it's like, well, true Yasharael didn't take out all the Canaanites. They took out a lot of the Canaanite Nephilim mixes, but not the actual human ones. So, I mean, they're still there, because Palestinians aren't Arabs. Arabs are Ishmael, which have rights to the land as well. Palestinians are Canaanites, and a lot of them will tell you they have pure Canaanite DNA. They're the people that were in the land before the real Yasharael, not the people that are there now, but before the real Yasharael conquered the land. So they have rights to the land as well. But what else was I supposed to say with that? There was something else. I was just thinking about the prejudice, but I know I'm forgetting something, but... Oh, yeah. Quote-unquote immigrants have been made the scapegoats of society, or at least of America, I should say. They've been made the people that everybody claims that they don't like because people are mad that the government was giving them money and stuff, some of them. Like, I remember this one dude was like, me and this bishop guy, we've been thinking about going to Mexico and then coming back over and saying we're Mexicans to get money. And this isn't even a white dude. And it's like, immigrants have been made the scapegoat just for people to lie to themselves pretty much, because one of the things about it is that if the government really wanted to give you money, they would just give you money. They're not giving you money for a reason, because they could care less about you anyways. Like, it's very obvious that the whole immigrant influx thing happened just to make them a scapegoat. so people could point fingers at them. People are so easily brainwashed and conditioned through trauma-based mind control and propaganda. Due to when immigrants from anywhere come to the country, them often being told to watch out for quote-unquote Black Americans and not to listen to us and all that stuff, and also due to them being labeled off as white on the U.S. Census, and just the fact that America is a very racial hidden place due to its foundations, and that people literally come here to be racist, especially with melanated people and the Judah tribe bantus in America, just quote-unquote Black people. I could also see why for some of them it's easier to be brainwashed to not like immigrants, because for one, they can't have their hair stores in the white community, because for one, quote-unquote Black people are the number one consumers and we spend the most money. White people aren't really going to those hair stores and getting that cursed fake hair bullcrap anyways. But they can't have their hair stores in the white communities. They can't have their gas stations in the white communities, so they have them here. Meanwhile, we can't own anything, and that makes us feel some type of way about them, because one, they own their stores in our communities. Two, they're typically very racist and prejudiced and stuff and treat us funny anywho, and so that makes us feel some type of way about them. And I even remember this white savior, covert and subconscious racist liberal white lady once told me a few years ago, which is really annoying because people just treat street kids really funny. It's like you can't really do anything anyways, but people want to make you feel like you should have accomplished a lot more than you really should have. And as I talk about in a couple of videos, especially my street kids aren't seen as kids videos, when you don't have parents or support system and it's visible that you don't, you're automatically seen as a man or woman, so that causes a lot of weird mindsets towards you that people don't expect from kids who have parents and live with their parents. But anyways, this white lady was she was trying to act like I was just the Black victim or something, and was talking about some immigrants come right into the U.S. and fly right over you into upper middle class and middle class, and it's that's done by design. I didn't respond to that bullcrap anyways, but that's done by design. And I've even mentioned before how I noticed when I was on the West Coast that immigrants who were upper middle class or rich would walk up to street kids who were 14, 16, 18, 19, 20, whatever years old, and be like, so what do you guys do for a living, just to be funny. And that's also that classist rich mindset that a lot of people have in certain places. That's the real issue. But it's I could see why, because of things like that, people could be easily programmed to not like immigrants. With the poor white people, they still feel better, the white supremacist ones anyways, they feel like they're better than the richest quote-unquote Black person, but they still do feel some type of way about the immigrants and even quote-unquote Black people getting above them. And I remember one time when I was in Cali and I was leaving the store, I had some Mexican dude that was doing roof work ask me what I was doing there, and I was just walking down the sidewalk leaving the store, and that was a racial comment, obviously. And then I still have videos of how ever since my first day in Cali, I was always being told to go back to Mexico, because as I mentioned, in Cali, the white people, they tell the Kenyans to go back to India, and they tell everybody else to go back to Mexico, which is really interesting. So I had the video that I re-uploaded from my evidence channels, and I'm missing something else I could put in. I remember one time in Cali, the cops were mad there was nothing to throw me in jail for other than maybe being homeless, and they started trying to accuse me of having drugs or something like that, and of course I didn't have any because I don't do any of that stuff. And that's in a place where white people literally sit around and shoot up and snort and well, not really snort, people aren't really doing that anymore, but shoot up and what else do they do, smoke the different stuff that they smoke all day long, and literally they're allowed to just stand around and unalive themselves because they won't police their own crime. They're literally letting their own people unalive themselves for years on end. And it's like, I remember seeing a video, a Pastor Stephen Darby video years ago, where he was talking about how they're dropping like flies and how it's also the judgment for them putting snow in the quote-unquote black communities in the 80s with the FBI and all that stuff that happened. And until I escaped my abuse situation and went to Cali, I really didn't know it was as bad as it is, but it really is bad. And I already talked about that a little bit earlier, but they want to find reasons to arrest me, but it's like, so you would take me to jail for doing something that white people stand around and do all day, which I don't do anyways. But there was something else I wanted to mention with that though, but I can't remember what it was. Oh yeah, I remember some African people were walking by and the police were like, they felt like I was gonna like try to get them to help me, and I was just thinking, those are Africans. They're not my people. They're not gonna do jack for me anyways. But of course the police just like, they probably didn't really know the difference. I mean, a lot of them, they thought I was Mexican anyway, so. But yeah, and I've even seen Mexicans talk about how much the Chicanos in Cali are racist towards other Mexicans and stuff like that. So people definitely do come here to be racist, but overall I see how that could be used to like help condition people into treating immigrants like crap. I'm not saying that it's right though, I'm just saying that like I see how that conditioning could work. And lastly, because I forgot something else, on my last Greyhound trip, I even met this dude who was literally talking some dude that was I would say he was a Spaniard. He didn't even really seem too Mexican, but he obviously didn't like Mexicans or quote-unquote Latinos anyways. But there was this, he was talking, the Spaniard-looking guy was talking to this white dude who said that he had autism, and I guess maybe that's the excuse for everything he was saying. He was even talking to this little girl who's quote-unquote black, who I think she said she had autism too. But he was talking about how his brother, how he lived in Alaska and he did underwater welding and he made a lot of money, and how his brother worked for ICE, and how he was literally rich and a millionaire, and how he was running around beating people up and kidnapping people. And then while he was saying that, the dude that was sitting beside him, the Spaniard-looking dude, was like, well, I come from that culture. Then the dude was like, oh. And then he was like, but I don't understand why people will fly the sign and put up a Mexican flag, or put a Mexican flag on the back of their car in America. And it's like, well, why can't they have their flag on their car? And that's how you know that he's not Mexican for real. He's definitely one of the Greco-Roman, Latin, Spaniard type people. Not that the real white supremacists at the top don't hate Italians and those different Greek and Roman root people anyways, but anywho, he was just talking about his brother worked for ICE and was running around unaliving people, and how they were rich, and how his brother had invested in crypto and all that stuff too. It even makes me think about how, even though Border Patrol definitely wouldn't hire me, I wouldn't want to sell my soul and work for them anyways. Back when I was on my way to Slab City, I had Border Patrol tell me that they're always hiring and that they'd hire me. That's some bull crap. But I wouldn't do it anyways. I already know that they wouldn't. I don't think I was old enough, but I also don't think, I mean, even with my physical health, it wouldn't happen. I wouldn't want to be like one of the house N-word Mexicans, because it's a lot of them that work for Border Patrol and stuff. In fact, it even makes you think about this, the Mexicans that are saying, I came into the country, right? And, your other Mexicans make us look bad when they come to the country illegally. That's not even the issue. That's the cover-up, smoke and mirrors rhetoric. That's the excuse for what's actually all about to go down and is happening right now. Like, the white Americans, they don't even like the Ukrainians, but a lot of them don't really like the Europeans either. But it's also like a lot of Europeans and a lot of people don't like America in general. That's something I learned a long time ago. But it wasn't until I went to Cali, especially, where I really realized a lot of things that I know about, like, even though I never saw myself this way, like a lot of things, people would try to make me feel like, I don't know, like I just had a black victim complex, quote unquote. I never really thought about things like that, but that's what was constantly being forced on me. But that's why it's a good thing I got out of there, to be honest, for a lot of reasons, aside from the coming earthquakes, you know what I mean? But also, like I mentioned in the why mental illness isn't caused by demons videos, maybe like the part 1 and the part 2. Another one of the things about it is that the real reality of the world and talking about things that are really going on, things that people are really going through, and things that are really happening makes anybody mad. But especially it'll make white people, quote unquote white people, and also house N-words mad, because it goes against the narrative that they've been told. But for white people, it goes against the narrative that they've been told about themselves. But I also noticed that, like, even on another channel I had, I started using the targeted individuals term in one video to try to, like, attract people who use that term to, like, show them, to lead them to a video that'll talk about why different things are happening, like when it comes to being the generational curse breaker and stuff like that. I personally never liked the targeted individual term, kind of just like for the same reason I didn't like the chosen one term. Now, I do totally know that people who are in high level trap and they escape, they will often be like targeted by their family if they're born in, or different people will be sent after them to harass them and things like that. Other than that, I do feel like it's mostly spiritual, but overall I didn't really like the term, but I wanted to try to like lure in people who use terms like targeted individual, and then what's the other one, gang stalking, terms like that. And I know, like on my other channel, that's how it seems like that's how the chief handler dude originally found one of my channels, and then eventually found the other one, because I used the term for a couple more videos to try to bring in some people from like the audience that use that term or consider themselves to be that. And now my assumption was that like maybe he did one of those things where you type in a title into the YouTube search bar, and then you change the settings and you go to like videos and videos with less views, and that's how he was finding my channels. And I'm saying all this to say, he hates the quote-unquote white trash, the people who are, the white people who are like on all the different substances, homeless or poor people in general, really. And also people that white guys like to deem as mentally ill. And I know that like when it comes to the term targeted individual, people see people who use that term as either being schizophrenic with grandiose delusions, or just grandiose and feeling like they're special in general, and or as being on substances. And I guess maybe he assumed like I was going to be one of those people, but I always say, in person and online, don't include me with the white addict projection and try to project your community's drug issues onto me. But overall, people like him also like to target people that they claim are schizophrenic or on substances. And I guess like he was hoping I was going to be another one of those people that he was going to be able to like, I don't know, play games with or scare or something. But I will say that it is unfortunate that like martial laws out in that these different Border Patrol and ICE agent people are online, or just white nationalists in general are online doing the things that they're doing, and posting people's addresses and posting people's relatives at gravestones and talking about people's kids who passed away, as the chief dude is doing. What else? Oh yeah, the other thing. And while I don't like to see myself as a victim, I talk about SRA, Ramco, the cash for kids system, the human cash cow systems, hoping that the people who need to find these videos, who are still trying to piece their situation together, especially people who are still in the abuse, so they can understand what's going on and why it's going on. But I feel like the unfortunate thing is that whenever you're seen as vulnerable or as a whiny baby type person, which that's not what I want to be seen as or do, but when you're seen as that, you're going to attract a lot of predatory people in real life and online in general, especially with the white nationalists, atheists, and Christians coming out the woodworks. And so I'm also seen as an easy target because I'm seen as the vulnerable, whiny baby type person, even though that's really not what I'm trying to be. But it is unfortunate the people who really need to see the videos aren't finding them. In fact, as I always talk about, your situation is just popcorn and entertainment in a Netflix movie to people. And I do believe that probably the majority of the people that watch my videos are white supremacists that just see my situation as a laughingstock, or just the things that I talk about. I don't even want to say my situation, but the things that I talk about as a laughingstock. But it's unfortunate because I piece these things together, and some people never find out what's really happening. They just blame themselves and say, oh, this is happening to me because I'm bad and stuff like that. But I really do want people who need the videos to be able to see them. But I was other thing. Oh yeah, and the chief handler dude, I know he's talking to or harassing the people that he harasses on a daily basis. He's always telling them that nobody's doing anything to you, which I still feel like he says that his goal is to get people who are quote-unquote targeted individuals, something that I really don't identify as, but he wants to get those types of people to unalive themselves, and he claims he has gotten some to do that through internet bullying and stalking in person. And like I've always said, the funny thing about that is that he's really just proven the people that he says are schizophrenic, addicts, and grandiose and all that, he's really just proven those types of people right. But one of the things that I feel is really bad about it is for somebody who may actually have schizophrenia or paranoid schizophrenia due to trauma, people like him are just further traumatizing them pretty much, to make a long story short. But anywho, he's always telling them everything that's happening to them is karma and that their suffering is their fault. And that everything that happened or is happening is their fault, and it's their fault they're poor and broken, homeless or an addict or living in a trailer park, whatever in the world. And it's really kind of unfortunate because the thing is, I don't want to be seen as this victim, but it seems like a lot of predatory white dudes and white boys are seeing me as a new vulnerable target who sees myself as a victim, but that's really not what it is. But it's kind of annoying though. That's why I really rather find a safe spot, or a safe place, because I really do want people who need to see these videos and need help understanding what's happening to them and why. I really want them to be able to see it. But with all the stuff that's going on in America especially, it's really risky because, for one, people that work for the Department of Homeland Security, and they work for these different martial law organizations, they see my videos and they see me telling people what this is and what that is and what this really means, and about the different government organizations and CPS and all that. They see me as I guess I could say a threat. Somebody who's exposed, and although I don't like that term either, I don't see myself as exposed in anything. I'm just telling people things that they already know but don't care about or won't admit are happening. But they see me as a threat that's exposing them or the people that they work for, and that alone can make them want to report me to whoever and try to do whatever to me. And that's another bad thing about it. Not that I really even care that much anymore, but I do want people who need this info to be able to get it. That's the main thing. And then another thing that makes me think about, they look for people who don't really have a lot of subscribers or views, because those are people that are also seen as vulnerable, because for one, they feel like you're just talking to yourself about your issues or about different things that are going on in your life. And I don't know, you want people to care or something like that. And then too, they don't really feel like they have to worry about maybe people who are your quote unquote supporters or whatever confronting them about anything. And I think that's like, that also goes into like how I mentioned that realistically, abuse never really ends unless you get above most people. Other than that, you're kind of always going to have different people targeting you if you're seen as vulnerable or like the dumped out orphan, that castaway that nobody cares about. That's another one of the bad things about it. But it's pretty annoying because that's really not how I want to be seen. And all of that also makes me think about this girl's video, so I'm going to put in some screenshots. Another abuse escapee who was also in Cali, although I left Cali like that was a little while ago, a few months ago. But anywho, all this, I'm forgetting some stuff. So the two videos she has at the top, and then the other one that I screenshotted, in one of them she's singing a song and like she's getting kicked out of her place and getting confronted by the police. In another one, she has a clip in one of the videos of her getting arrested, which is actually kind of interesting because when I get arrested, the police always take my phone and really all my stuff. But anywho, also they handcuffed me, so I don't really have the chance to even really record anything in the back. But all of that goes along with how, like, when you escape abuse or you get kicked out or you're dumped out of foster kid or you're dumped out of like some other human trafficking organization, the abuse really never ends unless you can get above most people, which a lot of people, that's why they fall into the cycle of like different type of degrading, ritualistic sex work that tears you apart, because it's a fast way to get money, and then they like can sometimes live in these rich areas, and then they don't have to worry about being tortured and treated like crap and called a bum. Well, they're gonna get tortured regardless, but they don't have to worry about like the treatment you get when you're homeless. And that's why I've been saying a lot lately that realistically you get treated the same in every situation, but people just have a different excuse to treat you like crap. And like the things in her videos are like her getting arrested, and even when she was singing about the cops telling her she can't drink in public and her saying that it's iced tea, she's not even old enough to drink anyways or to buy alcohol, because you have to be almost 3,000 to do that in the US, which is interesting. But you can go to jail and do everything else, or have everything else done to you more so. But to get back to the point, it makes me think back to this comment that I use in videos and as thumbnails pretty often, which is that there is no safe place for people with no family or abusive family. And that's really the reality, because when society sees you as like this target, the abuse will pretty much never end unless you can like hide from people pretty much. It seems like if you're not off grid, or if you don't become like extremely rich and you get above most people, people are always going to be talking junk to you and having something to say and treating you like crap. And of course, I mean in person. That's where the most risky stuff happens. And as I've already mentioned, I've had plenty of my own run-ins with ICE, and of course getting arrested every 3 months for existing. It's really not safe when people know that you don't have a family or anything, that you don't have anybody. You're just seen as an easy target. It's like, sure, your abuse after escaping or getting dumped out of your abuse situation, the abuse you go through from random people in society typically isn't going to be as bad as like with relatives or whatever trap situation you're in, because it's not like as controlled. It's not like you're like locked in a room getting beat on or something like in your previous situation, but still it all stacks on top of each other, which is why people eventually split into schizo after being out here so long. It really does seem like you either have to hide from people or get above most people, and that's why I'm also going to edit in some screenshots of different links to Reddit posts from the CPTSD group specifically one that really makes me think about all this is the one where the dude's saying, I'm scared of people and I don't know how I'm supposed to pretend I'm not. Now, me personally, I'm not scared of anybody, but I do know that realistically, as people like to throw around the vulnerable thing, I don't really like the whole vulnerable term. It's very victim blaming, but realistically, people do see me as vulnerable. When you're in these situations, even though people say, oh, you're just a crazy addict bum or whatever, or you're just the abused kid who your family doesn't like you, and they'll make jokes about that or whatever, they'll say that, but realistically, they really just see you as an easy target because they know that, like, you don't have any parents or anything that are going to come say something to them, especially when you're actually, like, younger. But in general, they just see you as an easy target because they know that, like, nobody really gives a crap about you. Some people throw up the whole burn your bridges term. I really hate that one because most people who end up out here, they never had a bridge in the first place. It's like, I mean, what was my bridge? Other abused kids who couldn't do anything to help me anyways, that are in their own situations, because it's like, I escaped my situation, but like, I mean, my quote-unquote bridge, which isn't a bridge anyways, but I mean, they're still in their abuse situations. They're kids themselves, so it's like, what in the world is my bridge supposed to be? Not to mention the isolated situations that me and other people I know and have known who go through these types of things we're in. So like, we don't really get a lot of chances to really meet a lot of people, but it's like, the bridge would be living with people's parents, not living with them. And everyone I knew was also being neglected and stuff and horribly abused as well. So it's like, they didn't have anywhere for me to go, but people love to throw around the whole burn your bridges thing to like blame homeless people. And I don't want to say victim blame because I don't really see myself as a victim, but that's why I had that video as well. Near the end of the why giving up on life is a good thing video, I talk about how it's like people want you to feel bad and they want you to see yourself as a victim so they can tell you about how you're not a victim and everything's your fault. But it's like, I don't even want to see myself that way, because like, for me to really see myself that way, I have to have something really being done to me, like really bad on like a large scale or whatever. It has to be I don't know, I have to be like locked in a room or something to really see myself that way. But all this also reminds me of why it's better to just kind of like disappear into the shadows. But all that though, especially with the treatment from society, like in person, and just like different weird things people do to you, and also like a lot of the racial stuff that goes along with this, because as I always say, I mean, things are about to get really bad, but still as of right now, kind of, some of the most racial bullcrap you'll go through is all being a street kid. And I say street kid specifically because when you're like a younger homeless person, people also like see you as easy to like tell anything to and manipulate. So like, they know that, or they feel like most likely you don't know anything about the laws and you don't have anybody to run to tell anything to if like some store or somebody does do something like really crazy or racial to you. And they know that you probably don't know how to get a lawyer, even how to like start a case and different things like that. Not that that would really matter or do anything anyways, but I'm just saying. So they feel like they can pretty much play with you and play games with you more. Anywho, point I was getting at though, that I completely forgot. You'll often hear like therapists and just different people that talk about CPTSD and trauma push out this narrative that like once you get out the situation and you get away from your abusers, that like things get better and the abuse ends. And I'm definitely not saying that things haven't gotten better. Even my health has greatly improved, because I've had serious health issues that I was being gaslit about by PCPs especially, that I actually could have passed from and should have years ago. But it's like, if you don't have a support system, if you don't have a family, if you don't have anywhere to go and hide, and you, especially if you fall into the whole homelessness thing, which I really didn't and don't like to call myself that, but especially like if people see that you don't have a family or parents and you have no place to go, and they see you as like the kid who's being quote unquote bad and grown because either you did something to get kicked out or you're hiding from somebody in their eyes, or they don't even see you like that, they just like think other stuff about you or whatever. overall, you're seen as another one of the issues in society, which is why I always talk about the whole quote-unquote bad, crazy, slow, brown, poor, weird thing. And how those are some of the labels that society throws on people that are going to be pushed to the bottom. Because for someone to be up, somebody else has to be down. Realistically, if you don't have any safe people to be around and any safe place to go, it's never going to end. And a lot of people, even Europeans, once the things really start to hit the fan in the US with the NAZIS stuff, and people really see what's about to happen, a lot of people aren't going to really want to accept it and are going to want to have cognitive dissonance, but a lot of people are about to get out of here, and a lot of people are going to have to get out of here. And that's the thing. People are always talking about Celestial and other people, but when you're one of the quote-unquote vulnerable people that people see as the easy target, you calmly will see and notice these things before people who are generally safe and spend most of the time in the house or hanging out with family. You'll see things before they do. People who don't actually understand how bad the ice stuff is because they don't go anywhere or they're not quote-unquote vulnerable, they don't get it. And they're going to get it probably too late. But the younger you are, the more people also want to essay you. And if people see you as vulnerable, they either treat you like crap and or don't want you around at all, or they want to essay you, and then that's pretty much it.